Jai Hind everyone. Now, last 5 days are remaining for your Civil Services Prelims 2026 exam. Now, in this, Indian polity is one such subject wherein you have the chance to attempt all questions correctly. And those around 15 to 20 questions that might appear in your examination can boost your score multiple times. So in last 5 days, which all are the important topics to be revised, from where you will be getting maximum questions, I'll be quickly telling you all those 10 topics that you must revise in these last 5 days so as to attempt all of your Indian polity questions in the upcoming prelims exam. The first and the most important topic, as usual, is the topic of parliament. Now, this single topic can help you attempt anywhere close to 4 to 5 questions in the examination. Okay. Now, in this Indian Parliament, why this topic is in news? First and foremost, you have to study about the composition of houses. Okay. So, composition of houses has to be studied, how the composition of Lok Sabha is done and how the composition of Rajya Sabha is done. Clear? So, while you are dealing with the composition of houses, do remember the required article numbers also, because this time there will be questions specifically asked about the articles. Okay, they can be in the form of match the following, they can be in the form of elimination of options. Clear? Besides composition of houses, do study about the disqualification of members. Okay, so along with this disqualification, not just Article 102, but the anti-defection law has to be studied. Okay, so along with this, the anti-defection law. Now, when you are reading this composition, the anti-defection law, you must go through about the powers of presiding officer. Okay, the power of the speaker as well as the chairman. Clear? So these are three most important components that you must read in detail. You must by heart the articles associated with these. Clear? Now, essentially, whenever you are doing so, do remember to study the parliamentary committees also. Previously, there have been questions only around the finance committees, but the questions around the committee on assurances have been asked. So do revise the parliamentary committees in these last days. Okay. Along with this, in this topic of parliament, the process of legislation of bills. Okay. And in this, do not forget to revise the bills that will lapse in case the Lok Sabha gets dissolved. Clear? So these are some 5 most prominent topics that you must revise inside the topic of parliament. Clear? So please do revise this topic, because this topic of parliament will also help you to revise the topic of state legislature. Clear? The processes in the state legislature will be automatically revised when you are going through this topic. Clear? So first and the most important topic is the topic of parliament. Clear? Second, after parliament is the union and state executives. Primarily in this union executives, it has to be the office of president. In state executives, primarily read about the office of governor only. Clear? Now, in this office of president, do study the process of election, process of impeachment. Clear? In governor, primarily it is only the powers. Clear? So, in this union and state executives, do not leave these two offices, president and governor, their powers specifically, and in these powers, just remember which all are the discretionary powers of these. Okay. Now, why this becomes important? Because last year in the Tamil Nadu state government case, clear, the judiciary has given a timeline, okay, a time limit wherein the bills referred to the present or that are pending with the governors have to be considered by them. Clear? So, because last year it was in news about the asset of bills and the time limit that was associated with them. Clear? So, by and large, these two topics, their powers have been in news, and the recent, what all have been the recent interpretations must be remembered. Clear? Along with the articles. Okay. So, this is the second topic. Now, third is the topic of judiciary. Okay. Now, as previously I have discussed, okay, the role of Supreme Court, okay, and essentially you must also remember the process of appointment of judges. Okay. Now, why this is important? Because recently, okay, as this has been very recent, okay, the strength has been increased. Okay. So, the appointment of judges in the Supreme Court, the appointment of judges in the High Court. Clear? Also, Article 142 has been invoked multiple times on multiple occasions in the previous year. Clear? So, these two components in this judiciary also becomes important. Clear? What all are their exclusive powers? Okay. What all are the overlapping components? How the provisions can be increased or can be made more efficient? You must go through these. Clear? Next, also in this judiciary, do not forget to read the contempt provisions, contempt proceedings as well. Clear? Because previously we have seen that these provisions of contempt have been in news, okay, primarily with respect to politicians and the political leaders. Clear? Next, after judiciary, it is the center-state relations. Clear? So, center-state relations primarily with respect to the role of CBI that has been in news. Clear? Along with this, okay, in the center-state relations, financial relations primarily, because there have been too much of conflict in and around GST. Clear? So, in and around GST, what all are the overlapping powers, okay, in the financial relations, in the administrative relations, you must go through them. Clear? Secondly, the questions around the role of executives or the role in the all India services, as well as we have seen that there have been various provisions wherein questions around the delegation of powers have been asked. Clear? So, center-state relations again becomes a very, very important, sought after topic. Clear? Now, this was the fourth topic. Okay. Now, fifth is amendment to the constitution. Okay. Now, why I am talking about the amendment of the constitution? Because this time it has been the strength of Lok Sabha that was supposed to be increased. Okay. Bill was not passed. Okay. Now, in these situations, you must go through which all federal provisions require type 2 method under Article 368 of the Constitution. Clear? So, different type of majorities required, which all are the topics involved under the type 2 specially. Clear? And do remember that what all are the implications. Clear? Where all necessary changes have to be introduced, and just also go through the constitutional amendment bills that have been introduced recently. Clear? So, last 10 constitutional amendment bills must also be remembered. Clear? So, this essentially is the fifth topic. Then sixth is the emergency provisions. Clear? So, emergency provisions not specifically with respect to Article 352, 356 or 360, Article 365 must also be remembered. Okay, so herein Article 365 must also be remembered. Okay, under Article 365, what all are the procedures, what all are the provisions, these must be remembered, and what are the previous Supreme Court judgments around the same must be remembered as well. Clear? Along with this also, not just emergency provisions, not only with respect to the emergency provisions, also remember that in which all conditions are the exceptions given? Clear? Specifically in the case of Article 356. Clear? So what all are the exceptions given, and previously what all have been recommendations upon the in the emergency provisions through the center-state relations various committees. Clear? Next, moving on to the state legislature. Now, in the state legislature, just remember the composition. Okay. Also, the process of legislation of bills. Okay. In this component, do remember the powers of governor with respect to the reservation of bills. Okay. And then what all are the implications over it, where all which all veto powers are available or not must be remembered. Clear? Along with the specific articles. Clear? Then essentially features of the constitution. Okay. Now in the features of the constitution, you must remember that which provision relates to which feature. Okay, just as an example, various questions have been given, okay, around which amongst the following are unitary features, which amongst the following are federal features. Clear? So features of the constitution highlighting federalism must be remembered. Clear? Then comes ninth. Okay, is essentially, this is the topic of election commission and its responsibilities. Okay. Now there have been various changes that have been introduced in the composition of election commission. Clear? So first and foremost, you must go through the composition of the election commission. Clear? Recent amendments made. Clear? And also do discuss about the election petition. Okay, and as usual, when elections have been in news, okay, a question anywhere around the model code of conduct is also seen in news. Clear? So these are some 4 important things that you must read in the topic of election commission. Okay, recently what all reforms are also required, you must go through it, because at times there are questions around the reforms as well. Clear? Then lastly, these are the most important topics. Clear? So while going through these topics, just remember, okay, that whenever you are reading anything, whenever you are going through anything in the Indian polity, in case you find any difficulty, please do not forget to take an example in your mind. Okay, clear? Okay, 10th topic that essentially we can see is the topic of federalism. Clear? Federalism and what all factors uphold it. Clear? Acha. Now, whenever you go through any Indian polity question, in case you are stuck or you find it slightly confusing, please take an example of multiple situations. Okay, situations that come at a hand. Okay, always solve an Indian polity question by taking a reference to it. Okay, in case the reference is applicable in all situations, then consider the statements. Okay, otherwise negate it. Clear? So Indian polity is one such subject wherein you can attempt all the questions, that too successfully, in your examination. So just be calm, be composed, and make sure that you do not rush. Please do not ignore the obvious or the extreme statements that have been made. Clear? Lastly, for if you are preparing for IAS 2027 or for 2028 examination, GS Foundation English batches, okay, are starting on 20th of May. Okay, so for 2027 examination, the course is priced at rupees 13,999. For 2028 examination, the course is priced at 29,999. Clear? You may use the code SRM Live to avail maximum discount. Clear? So this was all from my side today. All the very best. Work hard and you will succeed. Jai Hind.